In the Balkans near the Adriatic Sea, there is a country called Bosnia and Herzegovina. This place is still not well known to some people. Some of you may be familiar with this country and have even visited it. It is a former Yugoslavian country with one of the two shortest coastlines in the world, where Muslims and Christians live side by side. This is where the assassination attempt that started World War I took place. This is the first country in Europe to use electric trams. So let's cover the capital city of Sarajevo, part of our one-week trip to Bosnia and Herzegovina in this video. We will share some interesting facts about the country and our own experiences in the capital. As always, we'll start with the geographical aspects of the country. If we look at Bosnia and Herzegovina on the map, we can see that Bosnia and Herzegovina has an area of 51,000 square kilometers. Let's compare its area with the neighboring Balkan countries. The country has a smaller area than Serbia, but almost the same size as Croatia. Bosnia and Herzegovina has a much larger area than Montenegro. There is also a very unusual situation related to the location of the country on the map, which is related to its borders with the sea. Many people think that Bosnia and Herzegovina is a landlocked country, but in fact, there is a coastal town called Neum in the very south of the country, which makes Bosnia and Herzegovina a neighbor of the Adriatic Sea. With only 21 kilometers of coastline, the country is not very popular for sea tourism. The city of Neum has the second shortest coastline in the world. The shortest coastline belongs to Monaco with a length of 4 kilometers. We can even say that Croatia's mainland territory is divided by Neum, the town of Bosnia and Herzegovina facing the sea. The Croatians have built a crossing called Pelješac Bridge over the sea to allow traffic to continue without entering Bosnia and Herzegovina. They actively use this route. On the other hand, Bosnia and Herzegovina today has an internal population of about 3.5 million. The best-known cities are the capital Sarajevo, Mostar, and Tuzla. The most populous city is, of course, the capital Sarajevo. Sarajevo is located in the central part of the country in the middle line. The population of the capital, together with the surrounding villages, is about 700,000 people. If we take a closer look at the map of the capital, we can see that the central structure of the city resembles a rectangle. So, when you go to Sarajevo, you can clearly see that the crowds of people and the density of traffic flow between the eastern and western lines. For example, the old historical bazaars, which are the most crowded and touristic places, are located in the eastern part of the city, while the business centers are located in the western part of the city. The Miljacka River, also known as the Sarajevo River, runs through the center of the capital and divides the city into two. In other words, as in almost every Balkan or European country, the capital of this country is built around a river. If we briefly touch on the history of the country, the known history of Bosnia and Herzegovina dates back to the Roman Empire. By 200 BC, the Roman Empire had expanded its territory to the geography of present-day Bosnia and Herzegovina. In the following centuries, the Byzantine Empire and Slavic tribes began to operate in the region. Then began the Balkan conquests of the Ottoman Empire. Therefore, the territory of today's Bosnia and Herzegovina was completely under Turkish control in 1482. The territory of today's Bosnia and Herzegovina remained under Turkish control until the fall of the Ottoman Empire, a huge period of more than 400 years. Of course, during this time, the Turks spread their culture and Islam throughout the Balkans. Today, an estimated 45% of the country is solidly Muslim, mostly Bosnians from the central part of the country. The south of the country is dominated by people of Croatian origin and is estimated to be 17% Croatian Catholic. In the northern and eastern parts of the country, Serbs are the majority, and 38% of the population is Orthodox Christian. In other words, Bosnia and Herzegovina is a place where people of all religions live together. Some even call the country's capital the Jerusalem of Europe. Especially in Sarajevo, the Jewish faith is very strong. For hundreds of years, Christians, Muslims, and Jews have lived together in this city. The most important event in the recent history of Bosnia and Herzegovina was the assassination of Franz Ferdinand, Duke of Austria-Hungary, by the Serbian nationalist Gavrilo Princip. Shortly after the assassination, a series of diplomatic and military actions took place between the great powers. As a result, the outbreak of the First World War was inevitable. This is exactly where it happened, and now it is a museum for tourists. As you can see, there are always crowds of people at the roadside, and this is one of the first stops for people coming to the country. Finally, after the breakup of Yugoslavia, Bosnia and Herzegovina engaged in heavy armed conflicts with both Serbs and Croats in many parts of the country. The number of deaths in these wars varies from source to source. It is estimated that at least 2 million people were displaced, and at least 200,000 were killed in the fighting for independence. Now that we've talked enough about the geography and history of the country, let's continue with our own journey. Let's say you fly into the country via the capital city of Sarajevo. When you enter the airport, you will notice that it is not very big. If you take a taxi, as we did, taxi drivers will take you to the tourist center of the capital for an average of 20 euros. You can get a taxi to the city center for 25 euros. Or, if you are good at bargaining, you can get a taxi to the city center for 15 euros. For an average 4-night trip to the capital, you can easily find a 2-bedroom house for between 200 and 250 euros. The facades of the buildings in the bazaar area are at least 50 years old and in need of renovation. Again, the entrances and staircases of these buildings look a bit dated. But the interiors of the apartments are usually renovated and modern. For example, the house we stayed in had such a bedroom and bathroom, and it was very useful. Just be aware when you book your hotel that when the tram passes in front of the building you are staying in, the buildings literally shake, my friends. It can literally keep you awake at night. After a perfect night's sleep in the capital Sarajevo, when you enter the city, the first place you will visit, like many other visitors, is the old tourist bazaar. They also call it Baš Čarša. I must say that Bosnians eat greasy pastries for breakfast, and they are right. These pastries can be filled with minced meat, cheese, or potatoes. They pour yogurt with high water content on the pastry according to your wish. I can say that their pastries are really delicious. In fact, I think this country has the most delicious pastries among all the Balkan countries. You can easily fill your stomach with an average portion of pastry for 10 or 12 Bosnian marks. Bosnian mark is the currency used in Bosnia and Herzegovina. The abbreviation for this currency is KM. If you want to hear something that will annoy you in this country, I would like to point it out with a problem you will encounter right at the beginning of your trip. Whether you're in a tourist area or a remote part of town, more than half of the businesses there don't accept credit cards. You can see this not only in small businesses, but even in large restaurants. If you want to pay after eating and drinking at the shops and the big bazaars, they will definitely ask you for cash. Some even write on their doors that they only accept cash. Restaurants accept euros, and 1 euro is equal to 2 Bosnian marks. As you move around the country, you will mostly use these 20, 50, and 100 bills. As the value of your money increases, so does its size. You can use your credit card only for hotel bills and supermarket purchases. Another bad thing about supermarkets is that almost no supermarkets are open on Sundays. Therefore, if you are going to Sarajevo on the weekend, you will have to do extensive shopping on Saturday for basic needs such as water. If you want to analyze why businesses do not accept credit cards, I think the only valid reason is that they are avoiding taxes. As in any country, businesses that do not accept credit card purchases do not want to document the products they sell and require cash on hand. Thus, the state tax authorities cannot audit these sales and demand taxes. I think that businesses in Bosnia and Herzegovina do not want to use credit cards precisely because of bank commissions and lower taxes. If you put aside the credit card problem and visit the bazaar after breakfast, you will quickly come across the biggest symbol of the capital, Sarajevo. This is the tourist area known as Baš Čarša, and perhaps the biggest tourist symbol of the city is this fountain. Everyone who goes there takes pictures in front of the fountain, just like these people. In fact, if you go to Sarajevo in spring and summer, you probably won't have a quality photo in front of the fountain. Because people will pass you all the time and they will be in your photo involuntarily. If you study the fountain for a few seconds, you will see that this fountain is very clearly Ottoman architecture. After conquering Bosnia and Herzegovina, the Ottoman Empire built mosques, inns, towers, and fountains in many parts of the country. These fountains were intended to provide free water for people and stray animals. Although Sarajevo was subjected to a major war in the 1990s, the fountain in the main bazaar was not destroyed and managed to survive. As a result, the fountain has become one of the iconic symbols of Sarajevo. There are also mosques in different places in the same bazaar and fountains where people can drink water for free. In my opinion, don't pay for water when you walk through the bazaar and fill your bottle with the cold and delicious water that flows from these fountains. Because Sarajevo shopkeepers are a bit out of line with the prices of some products. If you buy water from a kiosk or restaurant in the bazaar, they will sell you a small bottle of water for about 1 or 2 euros. For example, if there are 2 people, it doesn't seem wise to pay 3 or 4 euros for 2 small bottles of water. Walking around the city, it is often unclear who is a tourist and who is a local. Because the tourist potential of Bosnia and Herzegovina is clearly made up of people from other Balkan countries with similar genetics. The most frequent visitors to the country in terms of tourism are Turks, Serbs, and Croats. You will see many people of all ages in the city. Let's observe the human structure of the capital. Especially in the city, there are many beautiful young ladies. Almost every one of them looks well-groomed and modern. Some women may be covered with a turban, while others have their heads uncovered with their hair visible. Bosnian women have visibly light skin and even mostly white skin. Some women wear colorful burqas as part of their faith. These women are the ones who are more religious than usual. For example, go to a mosque in the capital. If you look at the people who are praying afterward, you will see that women often pray in the mosque with their bodies covered. Men also pray in mosques at different times of the day. Mosques in Sarajevo are not only places of worship, but also places where people rest and chat in shaded areas. Mosques have fountains for worship and for needs, and clean water flows from these fountains at all hours of the day. The majority of people in Bosnia and Herzegovina have blue eyes and black hair. The majority of women are between 160 and 170 centimeters tall and not overweight. As for men, like women, they have white skin and mostly brown eyes. Men are tall and do not genetically inherit bushy beards. As a society, they don't tend to grow long beards and are mostly beardless. Both men and women in Sarajevo are extremely wealthy, modern, and well-groomed. Although the bazaar is large and elaborate, sometimes you can't find a place to enter the bazaar. Especially at noon, the bazaar is very crowded. Obviously, the capacity of the bazaar is not enough to accommodate so many tourists, because those who visit the bazaar to explore it miss the details they hope to see because of the crowds and have to just walk around. In the narrow streets of the bazaar, you can hardly focus on any detail because there is always a crowd of people in front of you. This can spoil your walks in the center of Sarajevo. You will also be exposed to beggars in the bazaar asking for piles of money or people coming up to you to sell you their small products. I can say that there are many families with babies in Sarajevo. If we look at the names that Bosnian people give to their children, names like Mariam, Sara, Amina, Layla, Asha, are in the forefront for women. For boys, people give their children names like Harun, David, Ali, Ahmed, Kadim, and Omar. As you can imagine, these names are mostly rooted in Christianity and Islam, and are preferred by Bosnians. As you can imagine, Bosnian, Serbian, and Croatian are the most widely spoken languages in the country. In addition, the pronunciation and vocabulary of these 3 languages are often very similar. For example, if you say Zdravo to a local person in Sarajevo, they will easily understand that you are greeting them. Or if you say koliko for a product you want to buy, they will tell you the price of the product. Similarly, if you ask kako si, you are saying how are you to that person. On the other hand, if you want to thank a Bosnian person, you should say hvala. You can also be sure to hear a lot of Turkish expressions in Sarajevo. Bosnia has a 450-year history of Ottoman rule, so a significant number of visitors to the country are from Turkey, so the locals understand and speak Turkish well. There are even those who hang Turkish flags in the windows to attract tourists to their restaurants. Walking around Sarajevo, you will also see the flags of Bosnia and Herzegovina in many places. These people are extremely nationalistic and have a love for their flag. The flag of the country is yellow and navy blue. There are many stars in the middle of the flag. When Bosnia and Herzegovina became independent in 1992, the country was known for its mixed ethnicity. Therefore, the idea of a modern national flag did not exist. The government of the day started with the yellow and navy blue coat of arms of King Thomas, who reigned in the 1400s. They then artistically refined it and adopted it as the flag. Although the flag is accepted by Bosniaks, Serbs and Croats may have their own flags on the streets of other towns in the country. We will show you this in our Mostar video. Bosnia literally means water. If you want to use the word water to describe a country, Bosnia and Herzegovina would be the best choice. Especially if you travel between the cities and the country, you will see waterfalls and rivers flowing almost everywhere. For this reason, every part of the country is forested and wooded. The second name of the country, Herzegovina, comes from the name of a medieval duke. On the other hand, you will not find large squares in Sarajevo. Usually in the capital of any country, you will find a big square. You will not see big squares in Sarajevo. The biggest square you will see is probably the area where this local dance team performs. This square is located in front of the Sarajevo Parliament building, and important events in the city are held on this square. Therefore, in Sarajevo, you will mostly see long streets, covered bazaars, cafes lined up in narrow spaces. For example, if you leave the Baš Čarša area and head to the west of the city, you will be greeted by alcoholic restaurants and cafes. The architecture you will see around you will also be more European in design. Each of these cafes is packed with people, and if you look at their faces, they look very happy. For example, this group of 3 girls are dressed very sexy, and they are going to a club to have fun. Although they were young, it did not go unnoticed that they were smoking electronic cigarettes. It's on the street called Zeleni Beretki, where the city's elite hang out day and night. So much so that if you stand there for even a few minutes, you will see many luxury and expensive cars driving down the street. The brands of these vehicles are mostly BMW, Mercedes, and Audi. Others seek attention on the street with their motorcycles with loud exhausts. The street is lined with luxury hotels and well-dressed servants. The young people there spend most of their time in this bar with the flag of the United States of America. We passed this route again on different days, and every time the elite people were lined up around this bar. You will see very elegant and well-groomed women like these 2 women walking on the street. Just behind this street full of cafes, beautiful young women and luxury cars is a crowded pedestrian area. In this pedestrian area is the Cathedral of the Sacred Heart. This cathedral is one of the most important historical symbols of the capital Sarajevo. With its striking Gothic design and elaborate carvings, this architectural masterpiece is both a place of worship and a tourist attraction. The area around the cathedral is always crowded, and the operators saw an opportunity to take advantage of every empty space around the cathedral. There are many modern cafes that are filled with tourists at all hours of the day. The young people on the street are mostly positive and have an open view of life. They like foreigners, and they like to interact with them. For example, if you look at the faces of the people there, they are a little embarrassed when it is the girls who are being filmed. For example, this girl in red sports clothes is embarrassed while the men coming right behind her are posing for the camera. When the 2 women with the baby carriage saw the camera, the stylish woman in white pants posed for us on the street. Similarly, the 2 veiled women in the large bazaar were probably sisters, and they smiled at us as they were filmed. Those who don't have the opportunity to open a business around the cathedral use their skills to generate income. These people are mostly musicians. This cathedral is also one of the most photographed places in Sarajevo, because it is not only an architectural element, but also one of the places where Bosnians fought during the war. There are traces of blood on the floor and in front of the cathedral. If you walk past the cathedral and continue west along the street, you will see many clothing stores, souvenir shops, and street vendors. Just like the Grand Bazaar, you'll find crowds of people and beggars here. For example, this old woman was lying on the ground and crawling. She has resorted to such a method to make herself as miserable as possible and is begging you for money by trying to hide her face. On the other hand, you will surely come across this fire burning along the way. They call it the Monument of the Unquenchable Fire or the Eternal Fire, a memorial to the fallen of World War II. The fire in front of it has been burning since 1946. Only once has it been extinguished at night by drunken youths. But immediately after that, when bystanders realized what was going on, they lit the fire again. It is located at the intersection of Tito Street and is frequented by people. If you want to see the Unquenchable Fire Monument in the most impressive way, you should visit this area mostly in the evening or at night. Especially in the evening hours, the number of people taking pictures in front of this monument is even higher. If you are tired of sightseeing in the capital and want to take a break, it is worth mentioning that there are many green parks in the city center. Of course, you have to find an empty bench to relax. Sarajevo is such a place that every place worth visiting is full of people. Therefore, it is not always possible to find an empty place in the parks. Especially the park by the river is also a photo zone, so girls like these take a lot of pictures there. Some locals use the parks to smoke and relax. Parks are also a source of recreation for older people in Sarajevo. For example, there are many chess sets in the parks. Elderly people gather in these places and play stone games on these public chess pits. The colorful structure of trees in green areas will also attract your attention, and you will often see sakura trees in pink and white colors throughout Bosnia and Herzegovina. Although these trees are originally associated with Japan, in Bosnia and Herzegovina and Sarajevo, they are everywhere in the city. Even though they are not exactly sakura trees, they look very similar. This makes the capital's parks look more beautiful and peaceful than usual. If you're hungry after sightseeing around the city, Bosnia and Herzegovina and Sarajevo have some excellent dinners waiting for you. The most famous of these is cevapi, which is famous in almost every country in the Balkans. This meat dish is a finger-sized kebab made of beef. It is usually served with pita bread, which is also typical of the Balkans. The kebab and meat culture of the Ottomans led to the formation of this dish in the Balkans, and it has survived to this day. This is how the uncooked version of this meat dish looks in the shops. Some restaurants add clotted cream and onions to the portion of the dish, while others may serve you only the meat. If you want to eat a good cevapi, a portion of 10 kebabs costs about 12 Bosnian marks, which is about €6. With a drink on the side, you can easily fill your belly and have a perfectly delicious meal for an average of €8. I must say that I have had this dish in other Balkan countries, but the one I had in Bosnia and Herzegovina was the best. If you are looking for a quality restaurant, the restaurants in the big bazaar in the center do their job very well. The employees allow themselves to be filmed. They are usually smiling and friendly. Some restaurants also make a hamburger version of this kebab. The meat is usually very well done on the outside and medium rare on the inside. The meat is juicy and slightly pink inside. The long name of the dish is spelled cevapcinica in restaurants. People usually prefer to drink ayran with their meals. Again, this is a drink that is unique to the Turks and was brought to the Balkans by the Ottoman Empire. If we want to give you more food alternatives in Bosnia and Herzegovina, there is a popular soup called begova. It is a soup with chicken and cream. It tastes really delicious and is worth trying. They serve lemon with the soup, and it costs 6 Bosnian marks. If you are not a fan of beef meatballs, you can have chicken doner as an alternative. If you order the chicken kebab in portions, it will be served with salad, rice, and garlic sauce. The price of this meal was 14 Bosnian marks, about €7. The culture of popular dishes in Bosnia and Herzegovina comes from the Ottoman Empire. They also have coffee, called Bosnian coffee, which is served the same way as Turkish coffee. The taste of the coffee is the same as Turkish coffee, but they also add Turkish delight and sugar to their coffee. While the Turkish coffee is a bit frothy, we couldn't see much froth in the Bosnian coffee. These two employees prepared the coffee very carefully. If you want to try it, you can also order walnut baklava with your coffee. It is important to make a generalization that coffee consumption in Bosnia and Herzegovina, as in other Balkan countries, is very high. In fact, according to various sources, Bosnia and Herzegovina is among the top 11 countries in the world that consume the most coffee per capita. Let's talk about living conditions in Sarajevo. For example, one of the most important building blocks of a capital city is transportation. I would be lying or exaggerating if I said that transportation in Bosnia and Herzegovina is very developed. Unfortunately, both in Sarajevo and in the country as a whole, the transport system is not developed. Let me give you some examples. Sarajevo, the capital, although it is spread over a large area, does not have an adequate metro network. They wanted to solve their metro needs with rail train systems. Rail train systems should not be confused with subways. These tram-like systems run above ground and are not smooth enough because they use the same road as cars and cause traffic. In developed cities, however, there is a subway system that runs underground and is independent of vehicular traffic. On the other hand, car owners in the capital drive too aggressively. Of course, they yield at pedestrian crossings, but they change lanes and overtake too much in traffic. The vehicles on the road are mostly mid-range cars. Some of them drive cars that are more than 15 years old. The taxis are mostly 2010 model Mercedes sedans. You will see signs like 30 and 40 in most of the streets, which is extremely important for the safety of pedestrians. So much so that vehicles cannot exceed these speeds and must drive slowly. If you are on one of the side streets in Sarajevo, the roads are in desperate need of renovation. The streets and the alleys are often potholed and there is dust everywhere. There are too many narrow intersections and narrow roads in intercity traffic throughout the country. These narrow roads are one way and you cannot change lanes. The oncoming car will pass you. For example, if you want to travel 100 kilometers from Sarajevo to Tuzla, you can do it in 3 hours by public transportation, which normally takes 1 hour on the highway. In Sarajevo, blue buses are also used for public transportation. Apart from the railway system and taxis, people use these old blue buses to get where they want to go. There is also an intercity train system in the country, but with limited hours. For this reason, I recommend renting a car to avoid dealing with the buses. Besides, the buses they use are at least 20 years old and extremely uncomfortable. What is even more annoying is that the ticket sellers at the bus terminal may not accept credit cards and will definitely ask you for cash. We personally experienced this at the bus terminal in Mostar. The minimum monthly salary throughout the country is about 619 Bosnian marks, or 300 euros. This is, of course, an extremely low amount. Sarajevo in particular is never cheap for a Balkan city. Especially in touristic places, prices can be exaggerated. This is especially the case with souvenir sellers who will give you a price of 40 or 50 euros for any item you ask for. The average monthly income is between 1,000 and 1,500 Bosnian marks. So you can imagine that a nurse, a teacher, or a civil servant with a standard income earns an average of 700 euro per month. Let us also tell you about house rents in Sarajevo. For example, this local real estate site in Bosnia and Herzegovina has monthly rents for apartments. You can find the equivalent in euros by dividing each amount you see by 2. If you get a first impression of the houses from the photos, the monthly rents are easily between 1,000 and 2,000 Bosnian marks. This means that a person who wants to rent a house there will have to pay at least 500 euro per month. If we take a look at the prices in the supermarkets, we can see that the prices of milk and milk products, vegetables, and drinks are acceptable. Vegetables and fruits are sold in supermarkets in kilograms and have an average price of 2 Bosnian marks, i.e. 1 euro. Wine costs an average of 3 euros, while beer can be bought for as little as 1 euro. Similarly, a liter of milk costs 1 euro. In summary, to earn and save money in Bosnia and Herzegovina, a person must earn at least 2,000 euros per month. One of the things I like about this country is that men and women do not have different jobs. For example, we saw a barber in a tourist area and she was shaving a man's hair. If you want to move to Bosnia and Herzegovina and you are in the construction business, it makes sense for you. Because the country is open to development, there is constant construction, building and repair activity, especially in the capital. The country needs a lot of construction and installation workers. On the other hand, if you take a closer look at Sarajevo, you will see that almost all the buildings from Yugoslavia in the country are full of bullet holes. If you don't know the history of the country, you might think that the bullet marks on these buildings are decoration. But the holes in these buildings are really signs of conflict. After the war, the Bosnians did not restore the facades of these buildings because they were very much affected by the war, and psychologically they want to keep their martyrs in their minds and keep them alive in their minds. Some buildings may have smaller bullet holes, while others may have larger holes. If you go to the observation hill of Sarajevo, you will see the graves of thousands of war heroes. These graves, lined up one after the other, bear witness to the most painful traces of Bosnia and Herzegovina's recent history. Bosnia and Herzegovina and Sarajevo in general is one of the safest places in the Balkans. The chances of something bad happening to you in Sarajevo are very small. You can walk the streets at any time of the day. If you look at the faces of the people, you can see that they are living in prosperity. Economically, they are not very bright. They do not have a big known brand other than BH Telecom. However, if you are looking for peace and quiet, delicious meat dishes and a green environment, this country will give you what you want. This country has a mixed culture where Muslims, Jews, and Christians live together. Therefore, if you want to live in Bosnia and Herzegovina, it does not matter what religion you believe in. No one will interfere with your beliefs. You will be able to dress as you like in the country or move freely in the alcoholic and non-alcoholic areas. In fact, you will see very few police and police controls as you move around Sarajevo. This is because crimes that might concern the police hardly ever happen during the day. My friends, I should also mention that in the capital, if you go to places where the majority of locals are, You will not meet refugees or illegal immigrants, because the country does not have that problem. Only from time to time you will come across people asking for money from the gypsy community. From what I've heard from local taxi drivers and shopkeepers, they say that their politics are a mess, but you should just enjoy the country. If you earn more than 2,000 euros a month, you can live in Sarajevo for a long time and buy a cheap car for only a few thousand euros. However, we can say that this country is currently one of the 5 poorest countries in Europe, along with North Macedonia, Ukraine, Kosovo, and Moldova. I should also mention that the country's health and education systems are not in very good condition. In conclusion, Bosnia and Herzegovina and Sarajevo are perfect for a short vacation. But to live with your family for a long time, it is a country where there are many problems with vital services, and it is difficult to find a job. Our next video will be about the cities of Mostar and Tuzla in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We would be happy if you liked the video. See you soon!